Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Eastern Suffolk BOCES Community Legislative Committee meeting being held Thursday, August 18th, 2024. Can everyone please stand? Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. I'm swearing I had to say the pledge.
David Wicks will do the introductions tonight, our guest speaker.
Great. So I will introduce our guest speaker in a minute, but since we have a good group here today, we're gonna have you introduce yourself. So we're gonna try something here. I'm gonna do the room first and then Zoom. Paul is going to call you out. If you could unmute yourself when we're ready and just say your name and where within the agency you're from. But we'll do the room first and we'll start with Mr. Reppinger.
Hi, Steve Reppinger, Principal, Sequoia High School. Hi, Vinny Iorio, Principal, Jefferson Academic Center.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gina Riley. I'm the Director of Special Education.
Welcome, James Sixon, Associate Superintendent.
Pat McKay, the Divisional Administrator for Communications and Research.
Willie Shang, BOCES Trustee.
Tracy Beatty, Administrative Coordinator for the rec.
Joseph Eckstein, I'm the Business Manager for Contracts, and I'm the Data Protection Officer.
I do instructional technology and special education.
My name is Lane Hugan. I'm a student at both Milliken Tech and Sequoia High School.
Michelle Willow, Principal at Sable Elementary School.
Kimberly Bohm, Assistant Principal at Tecumseh Elementary School.
Elizabeth Palmieri, Program Administrator Special Ed.
James Krieger, student of Sequoia High School.
Howard Dance, student of Sequoia High School and
Oscar Rodriguez, student of Sequoia High School.
All right, Zoomer, let's give it a shot. Paul's gonna call your name. You're gonna unmute yourself and say who you are and where you're from.
Okay, Anne, can you introduce yourself, please?
That's Ann McAsee. She's one of our board members.
Okay.
Hi.
Oh, there you are.
Hi, all.
Hi, Ann.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Happy to have you.
Okay, Andrew, can you introduce yourself, please?
Gotta love technology.
Said we were gonna try it.
That's all right. That's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm, no, at least
No, we hear you, Ann. We're trying to get some other
You hear
folks.
I'm a member of the Board of Eastern Suffolk BOCES. Hi, all. Ann McAsee.
Great.
She's having Sag Harbor.
Okay, I'm gonna try. Andrew, can you introduce yourself?
We thought he said Ann. Ann and
I'm asking them. I'm like trying to tell them. Okay, Gabrielle, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Gabrielle Meehan from Sequoia High School.
Great.
John, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm John Galassi, Assistant Principal, Brookhaven Learning Center.
Okay, Mariam, can you please introduce yourself? Michelle, could you please introduce yourself?
Am I unmuted now? Okay.
Yep.
Good evening, Nichelle Rivers, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. Also, a few of us are in the waiting room. I'm trying to join from my computer, so if someone can let us in. There we go. All right. Thanks.
There's a lot.
That's what joins
A lot. All right, we'll pause on that. And we'll get started. So
Because I hope there's not a test after about who's who.
So it's my pleasure to introduce our guest. For those of you that are new here, our Community Legislative Committee was formed quite some time ago. And the whole purpose of this committee is really to expose whoever would like to come and enjoy this to folks that work at different levels of government, local, state, federal, whoever will come and speak to us about what it is they do and and how it might affect the world that you live in. So this evening, we're very happy to have Brookhaven Town Councilwoman Jane Bonner, who was born and raised in Northport, and has been a Rocky Point resident with her family of over 30 years. Her advocacy for the people of Northeast Brookhaven Town began with her service as Rocky Point Civic Association president, Rocky Point School Board member for 3 years, and as legislative aide and constituent services liaison for former Suffolk County legislator Dan LaSquadro. In these roles, she was able to help solve problems residents faced in their neighborhoods, which we heard a little bit about offline before, and assist them in navigating their town, county, state, and federal agencies. In 2007, she was the first elected councilwoman for Brookhaven's 2nd District, which she continues to serve today. The councilwoman remains the leading voice for the residents of her district in Brookhaven Town. In her tenure in office, she has forwarded initiatives to benefit residents, small businesses, seniors, children, veterans, and the environment. She successfully secured a federal grant through FEMA totaling $1.4 million for the shoreline stabilization and restoration efforts, $3 million in funding for New York State to fund the restoration of Mount Sinai Harbor, Mount Sinai restoration, and $1.8 million a New York State grant for sidewalk and roadway improvements on North Country Road in Shoreham, which was a very nice job.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you're happy.
Yeah.
And I can go now.
And a $500,000 grant to install sidewalks in Miller Place. As a past president of the Rocky Point Revitalization and Beautification Committee, her vision for a better future through responsible planning positively impacted the community. Through these efforts, she secured more than $500,000 in grant money for Rocky Point Downtown Business Corridor. She led the effort to rescue Nature Center at Cedar Beach from demolition and created an educational environmental learning center for children and preserved hundreds of acres of land as open space to be enjoyed for generations to come. Councilwoman Bonner also proudly supported several groups who have organized beach cleanups at Cedar Beach and Mount Sinai that additionally provided residents education regarding safe environmental practices. Councilwoman Bonner proudly supports several organizations and causes in their efforts to support individuals and groups in their community. Examples include the Polar Plunge, an event that she has participated in for 10 years, where supporters take to the Long Island Sound in the winter to raise money to support athletes of the Special Olympics of New York, Cell Phones for Soldiers, and a program where unused cell phones are recycled and used to provide those serving overseas access to communicate with loved ones back home, and National Night Out in partnership with the Suffolk County Sheriff, an event to build community relationships with our local law enforcement officials. Jane Bonner has also remained a steadfast activist in improving the opioid epidemic, which has tragically caused a great deal of pain to the families in Brookhaven. She sponsored a town code amendment which established additional restrictions to vape shops and indoor smoking establishments that helps keep dangerous substances away from the children in the community. Councilwoman Jane Bonner will continue to work to help the town of Brookhaven make the town of Brookhaven a better place to live for everyone. And with that, I introduce Jane Bonner. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. First, let me just say it's very weird to be videoed and not be able to see somebody on the other side. I guess I'm a little out of practice. We got very proficient with Zoom and technology during COVID. I shuddered a little bit when I heard I'm in, there's several of us in the waiting room. Can you let us in? Because we did our town board meetings and work sessions like that during the pandemic. And it was very, very interesting. Happy to be out of it. That's for sure. Well, thank you for this lovely invitation. I was actually surprised to receive it when the email came in. We bantered about in the office and I said, well, what do they want me for? What am I going to talk about? What have I done? What am I going to tell them I do? Because we're essentially anybody in public office, especially on the town board level, is really kind of a jack of all trades. We specialize in a lot of things and we, are perfect at nothing, to hold elective office and be able to problem solve is mostly about the connections that you've made through your years in office. I mean, it touches on my bio on the town website. First of all, I grew up in Northport in a family of 8. Today's Lineman Appreciation Day. My dad was a local lineman for over 40 years. And that was the time when you could have 8 kids and mom stayed home. And my mother did the grocery shopping on the weekend. My dad would come home from work. And then when we got 2 cars, my mother was free. But it was a completely different time. But one of the things that was stressed in all of us in my family was a strong service to our community ethic, which whether it was through Church St. Philip Neri that my mother goes to daily at almost 89, or scouting or anything else, you know, we were volunteering in the community. We were taught to appreciate where we grew up. I can still hear my mother saying to my grandmother, my father's mother, we would visit in Delaware. My father grew up in Lewis, Delaware, way before it became the Hamptons. And my grandmother dried everything with paper towels. And my mother said in 1972, I'll never forget standing in my mom's kitchen, Mom, you're using all those paper towels to dry the dishes. And my grandmother said, I'll just buy more. And my mother said, they're cutting down trees to make those paper towels. So for the kids that are listening and those that are here, it's things like that that stay in your head. I also vividly remember a Sesame Street episode where the girl was brushing her teeth with the water running. Has anybody ever seen that one? And there's the goldfish in the goldfish tank, and the water's running and the water's going down out of the goldfish tank. I think I was 7 when I stopped brushing my teeth with the water running, you know, things like that. So my impact locally is taking the knowledge that I gained growing up in my large family, where we all had a lot of responsibility. And parlaying it, I don't want to say the word parlaying, using the knowledge and my steadfast do-goodness that my husband calls it. My husband says that I'm just a do-gooder. He said, you can't just listen to a problem. You have to try to solve it, even if it has nothing to do with you. He said he pities the person that just wants to share something with me, just to like share it and unload, because I'm taking notes and handing them a card, telling them to email me. I might have a solution for you if you help me. When my kids were teenagers, they would say, Ma, I don't want you to solve my problem. I just want you to listen to it. Because I would be the one like, well, I'm calling that person, you know. So my daughter said in high school she was going to write a book, what it was like to grow up as Jane Bonner's daughter. So anyway, how did I end up as a Brookhaven councilwoman that just started her 17th year in office in January? My first husband and I moved to Rocky Point in 1987. We bought a little bungalow by Friendship Beach. And I cried every day for a year because I grew up in Northport and I wanted to move back there. And Rocky Point's a little bit is more populated now. The 6 summer houses that were on my street are now occupied year round. It was so quiet, like no cars would pass my house. I had to walk, you know, to meet my neighbors. I met one of my best friends having curtains delivered to my house accidentally, you know, so that was serendipitous. But I read an article in a local newspaper. The grownups in the room will remember the newspaper. It's no longer in print, Suffolk Life. There was an article in Suffolk Life about burglaries in some of the summer cottages and demanding the police have more of a presence in the North Shore Beach section of Rocky Point. That's when the 7th precinct didn't even exist. It had come to exist a few years after that, where it was only a part-time precinct, and it really was probably only 15 or 17 years ago that it became a full-time precinct. It was a part-time precinct. It wasn't staffed 24/7. So I went to a civic meeting because this resident compared it to a community that he grew up in, which has a high crime rate. And I was like, I told you we shouldn't have moved here. So I went to the civic meeting and I raised my hand. I asked a question. For the students that are listening and those that are here, decisions are made by those that show up to meetings. They really are. They really are. If you show up and you ask questions and you raise your hand and you become involved, you will be a target to stay involved. So I offered to become part of a neighborhood watch. I became part of a neighborhood watch. Somebody would pick me up at 10 o'clock at night. We drove around till 2 in the morning. We did actually catch a couple of people in the act. This was before cell phones. We weren't supposed to, you know, confront them. I have a bad habit of confronting people. It's just my personality. I am a Leo through and through. And you know, we were helpful with the police, with the neighborhood watch to help stop the summer burglaries, instrumental in helping create a full-time 7th precinct. So, like I said, you show up, they start asking you to do more things. The golf course in Rocky Point where J&R's is was slated to be sold and become 70 single-family homes. We convinced former town supervisor John Laval to purchase that property, make it a town-run golf course, and transfer the development rights to the Overton development in Medford. Things like that. Then when my kids were older, my daughter started kindergarten and there were 14 students in her class. The following year, the budget failed in Rocky Point and we went on austerity. I think that year's kindergarten class was like 28 max class size. It was a completely different educational experience. And I was very, very frustrated because my daughter was then in 1st grade and had a very large class size. So I said to her 1st grade teacher, what can I do? What should I do? This is unacceptable. And he said, Mr. Holmes, he said, you should go to school board meetings and join the PTA. I went to school board meetings, joined the PTA. Those that go to meetings make decisions. Guess who was vice president in a couple of years? Me. Things started happening in my community. We were looking for more resources. You know, the bypass was built, literally diverting traffic from downtown Rocky Point, which turned it into a ghost town. The state widened 25A, stores, businesses lost their parking, their storefronts. It really created quite a difficult situation for our business owners. And we saw businesses closing. And I became involved in the civic to try to generate not just new businesses, but interest in downtown Rocky Point, lobbying for grants for sidewalks, streetlights, the things that you see now. My next lobbying effort will be for some type of sewering system in downtown Rocky Point, not for apartments, but for businesses to be able to redevelop, because it's not a delicate way to say it, but if you don't have the ability to flush a toilet in a business, you can't expand your business. It's all about wastewater in Suffolk County. And the calculations that they use are very antiquated. They still, you know, all new businesses, everybody's required to have low flush toilets. They still calculate the water usage with a regular, you know, 5-gallon toilet flush, not a 2.2 gallon toilet flush, you know, things like that, wet uses, dry uses. So then I became Rocky Point Civic Association. You know why, President? You know why? Because I showed up to the meetings. You think I would have learned to stop showing up? I became Civic Association president. I was elected to the school board. Our highway superintendent, Dan LaSquadra, was running for office at the time, and he was running for a Suffolk County legislature. And he liked everything that I was doing in my community. And he's like, you seem to have your pulse on the community and its needs and wants and the problems. Would you help on my campaign? The timing was perfect. I was getting divorced from my first husband. My kids were in high school. My daughter was getting ready to go to college. And I was kind of in flux. I was a stay-at-home mom all those years. I was probably over-involved in my kids' lives. They were very happy when I threw myself into helping Dan LaSquadra get elected to the Suffolk County Legislature. And he got elected to the Suffolk County Legislature. He won by a nice margin. And then he asked me if I would be his constituent service aide, which is like chief cook and bottle washer problem solver. You learn the ropes, you get the contacts, you get your little Suffolk County book with all the contact information, and a resident that calls for whatever complaint, you call that department. But the best part about it is that you get to call the commissioner directly. So I would call the commissioner of DPW, talk about county roads with potholes or a broken stoplight or whatever. So I made all these connections over the years. And how did I become a councilwoman? Because I wasn't going to meetings anymore. I actually had to step down from the school board. I was going to meetings representing the legislator at the time. I was going to all the civic meetings that were in the 6th legislative district. So I knew a lot about several hamlets and their issues. And believe it or not, most have the same issues. whether it's a wealthy hamlet or not a wealthy hamlet. So it was late in the nomination process for, to be nominated to run for office before your name is put on a petition. If anybody's ever had anybody knock on their door to sign a petition for a slate of candidates. Just signing doesn't mean you have to vote for that person. It just allows their name to be on the ballot. The councilman that was sitting in the seat for the second council district, Kevin McCarrick, a well-known North Shore family, McCarrick's Dairy, decided late in the process that he didn't want to run for office. You know, he was a full-time family member at the dairy, up at 5 a.m. Every day, you know, when they were closing at 10 at night. Bridget, Pocky, and Kevin would rotate. And he was just like, this is like, because poor Kevin, if he was at the dairy, then people would be like, oh, Kev, you know, there's a pothole on my street. Oh, Kev, can you get the cops? They're speeding down my road. Oh, Kev, my neighbor's dog won't stop barking. You know, my neighbor's lights are shining into my bedroom. He could never get away from it. Never a minute's peace. So he was like, I don't really want to do this anymore. So I was working for Dan LaSquadro. I was dating my current husband. I call him my current because you have to have options. I was dating my current husband, and I had a very amicable divorce, but I was slowly drowning in debt because I was raising 2 children. You know, my daughter was in college, and college is expensive. And I came home from work and I said, you know, Kevin McCarrick's not running and they're talking about me. Possibly screening and running. When it's called a screening, you interview before the committee and then they decide who they're going to pick. So he's literally thought for a second and said, they're going to pick you. I said, why the heck would they pick me? This is a female-centric problem. There's not a woman in this room will not disagree with me. We don't think we're worthy or that we're smart enough, or why would they pick me? He said, of course they're going to pick you. You've been civic president. You were on the school board. You were vice president at PTA. I was on the board of North Shore Beach Property Owners Association, which is a private beach association in Rocky Point. Oddly enough, most of the beaches on the North Shore are private, except for Cedar and Shoreham. And he said, they're going to pick you. You know, you've made a lot of contacts working for Danny. And guess what? They picked me. They did. They liked me. They picked me. So that my name was on the ballot. I was to get elected. I knocked on 8,900 doors from June, end of May, beginning of June. I didn't take lunch. I left work at 4:30, put my sneakers and shorts on and a polo top, and I ran up and down 8,900 driveways from Middle Island to Wading River and everything, and every hamlet in my council district. I lost so much weight, I needed a belt to hold my pants up. I miss those days. And I still hear from residents that to this day, you knocked on my door when you were first running for office and you helped me with my problem. So that's always very gratifying and heartwarming. I've knocked on many thousands of doors since then. You pay a consultant, they put you at the doors of people that, oh, you want to go to people that vote doors. You don't want to go to a non-voter or somebody that's not registered. You know, you want to stimulate those that you meet to come out to vote for you. So that's how I ended up in office. What have I done since I'm in office? Well, I was sharing, you know, privately before this video that I cannot see went on, you know, some of the issues that I've been dealing with just, you know, this week alone. Some of it was maybe a little snarky, so I'm not gonna share, you know, publicly. But essentially, we are problem solvers in the town of Brookhaven. We are kind of a clearinghouse for issues that come across your community, your home, whatever you're conversing around your kitchen table or in your living room. Very often it ends up in one of our offices. I'm not just speaking for myself at this point. I'm speaking for anybody in elected office. Facebook, social media has created an arm of our interaction with the public that I don't think is necessarily positive. Because it's truly the game of telephone. That even if you interject on the thread that the rumor that you heard is not true. People don't trust politicians, and I don't view myself as a politician, and nobody that I works with views themselves as a politician. We really truly view ourselves as public servants. You don't do this unless you have a call to help people, unless you're good at problem solving. And the longer you're at it, the better you are. Former Senator Ken Laval was in office for over 30 years. There was nobody better than Senator Laval in problem solving, regardless of party affiliation. He was the best. He is the person that many of us try to emulate when it comes to service and helping people. Really, my biggest role technically is land use and development, the stores that you see coming, the multifamily apartments or housing complexes that you see coming. Those are the things that we have like the biggest visual impact that you all see. I represent mostly the North Shore. In this redistricting this past January, I did pick up a large section of Coram and I lost a big section of Ridge. Mostly on the North Shore, people don't want any multifamily. They don't want, I have a looming large sod farm in Delia Sod Farm where there's a tremendous amount of pressure to put up almost 1,000 multifamily units, which would completely change the character of the North Shore 25A. Not even the argument of traffic, it's Long Island, we have traffic. There's no way around traffic on Long Island. We're an island. But just the very nature of the community and how much it will change. That's why one of the things that I did that I feel really pretty good about that helped the Shoreham School District out a lot was allow for a solar farm on the Delalio Sod Farm, because that was going to be equally another 1,000 units of multifamily. Nobody really wants to build single family homes anymore. Our farmland is zoned, the underlying zoning is A1, which is 1 house per acre. So sometimes I would say to the developer, go ahead, build the houses, knowing full well that the value isn't in a single family home. The value is in 10 units to an acre as opposed to 1 to an acre. So in the land use plan, we allowed for a solar farm on Delalio Sod Farm, and they built a solar farm, and it generates about $1 million a year in pilot payments to the school district, the library, and the local fire department without any school children. We are at a crossroads on Long Island. We have massively declining enrollment. Now I think we actually need some houses to put some kids in schools to avoid layoffs and school closures. My school district that I grew up in Northport, the two elementary, Dickinson Avenue Elementary School in East Northport closed, and I think another elementary school closed. They mothballed Middleville, where I went to junior high, and they brought that online again. But school districts are in flux because of declining enrollment. And when people say to me, it's going to add, there's a 47 lot subdivision happening in Rocky Point behind Starbucks all the way to the Joseph A. Edgar School, opposite the diner. They're like, where are we going to put all the kids? I go, there's 20% less kids in the Rocky Point School District from when I was on the school board. We didn't even need to build the middle school. There's over 1,000 less students. I said, you should hope kids come out of that development, that everybody has 2 or 3 kids. But not everybody had, if for 47 homes, you're not going to have 47 kindergartners. You're going to have all age ranges. I saw a picture of kids in the Rocky Point kindergarten class. There's 12 kids in the class. We're at a crossroads. Anyway, that's my soapbox. So some of the things that I deal with on a daily basis are the #1 complaint in my office, besides potholes, is speeding. Speed. Everybody speeding all over Long Island. Everybody racing to the red light. That's the #1 complaint I get in my office. Everybody wants a speed bump or a stop sign. How many people see people stop at a stop sign? How many people do you see roll it? We call it stoptional. We call it a stoptional sign in the office. Some of the police officers I know call it a New York stop. You just kind of roll it. So you don't have to step on your brake too much and you just, can gun it again. And woe to the person that doesn't stomp on their gas as soon as the light turns green, right? Beep, beep, right behind you. Are you a beep beeper?
No, I was about to say, if there's anything you can do about the light on the corner of 347 and Alexander Avenue by the Smith Haven Mall, that light is so fast. Do you know how many times I've been late to work
Because-
because some idiot just didn't hit the gas
I-
for like 10 seconds?
Right? Because what did we do at red lights before we had phones? We just waited for the light to change. Now everybody's doing this, right? I just saw a 4-car pileup coming here. I came north, so I took 101 and I saw all these Yaphank Fire Department trucks. I was like, oh God, I don't want to be late. But it was like 4 cars all crunched and mangled. Anyway, I'm just essentially a problem solver, regardless of any level of government. During COVID, we were helping people getting their passports because the passport office was inadequately staffed. We were working with Senator Schumer's office a lot with passports, like I'd never dealt with so many passport issues at that point it was 15 years in office, never really dealt with so many passport issues, but we kind of do it all. We, help people with unemployment because we know people. We have, even though the highway department is not under my purview, we set the budget as the town board. Dan LaSquadra, our highway superintendent, is a completely separate elected official. He does not do what I tell him to do. I would never presume to tell Dan LaSquadra what to do. I worked for him for 4 years. All I can do is ask. Unfortunately, because how the mix of asphalt has changed environmentally with the additives, it doesn't last as long. Not only does it not last as long, it's more expensive. So whereas a $20 million budget would be able to pave many more roads, the same $20 million budget paves a third less roads now. So in defense, and how I explain to people whose development doesn't make it in the cut, I say, even if we had an endless pot of money, we don't have a climate that allows us to pave 12 months out of the year. We don't. The asphalt factories close until generally the end of March. Maybe around St. Patrick's Day, if it's warm, they can open up around then, but generally they don't open up till the end of March. So you have from April to November. And if we have our early onset cold in November, then everything gets shut down and we start all over. There's just in the following year, we don't have a climate that allows us to pave for 12 months out of the year. So it's cold comfort. I know if you were waiting for your road to be paved. But budget wise, and the way the economy is, we're not able to do as much with the same amount of money. I mean, you feel it in your own homes when you're grocery shopping, the same amount of money that you spent at the supermarket, you're not getting the same number of grocery bags, so that's why you see a proliferance of Aldi's and Lidl's that are cheaper, more affordable, that people are shopping at and very anxious for them to come in their community. So I would say I don't specialize in anything but I can do a lot of many different things. We're just kind of super uber problem solvers. Does anybody have any questions?
I do have one, but I was politely waiting. And if folks, if you're in Zoom land, if you could just raise your hand, Paul will call on you in a minute. So you kind of mentioned this, but the question that was in my head was with so many layers of government, different, levels of government, it can be confusing to know if you have a specific kind of issue you want to work on. Who do you call? And I think I heard you say, because you've mentioned during COVID helping people with passports, should people just call Jane, like you said earlier?
So none of us are ever bothered if somebody doesn't know where to call. We feel like you should call us instead of going to Facebook. I can't believe how many people ask really involved questions for advice on Facebook, where if you're a family member who somebody is addicted, I can put you in touch with resources for counseling and rehabs. You know, maybe there is a site on Facebook, you know, I'm sure that there are. It's not my specialty, you know, but how people would glean information like off a social media page, but you know, people do. I think you would get better information if you called your elected official. You know, they would have a more direct contact and an influence over the people that you call. Like, so say you call my office, your son or daughter is drug addicted, you have a family member who's an alcoholic. Who can I put you into, you know, do you know anybody? Can you put me in touch with people? Well, I have a whole list of people that I've met with, you know, that I can put you in touch with. Say you have a cat or a dog that needs to be spayed or neutered. I have vets that'll do it low cost. You know, we run the gamut. Well, I can put you in touch with low cost vaccination clinics. I could get you a voucher to have your cat spay or neutered from our own vet at the animal shelter. I mean, you know, things like that. You know, if you've got a chronically barking dog next to you, call my office. I can send public safety. If the dog is barking for more than 15 minutes, the family will get a ticket.
Dave, somebody has a question.
Okay.
This is Marion.
Hi, my name is Mariam. I just wanted to apologize just because when you called on me at first, when I first joined the meeting, I was having trouble unmuting my mic. So I'm from Sequoia High School, and my question would be kind of like directed towards younger people. If they wanted to get involved in their community and eventually start, you know, getting involved in local legislation, what would be any recommendation for starting out? So somebody like me graduating, like what would you say for them to do as they start, you know, getting jobs and going to post-secondary education?
So that's a really great question. My recommendation is always to stay involved with what's happening in your community. If you go to your school board meetings, because many things evolve out of your local school district, you'll absolutely know the things that are happening definitely in your school and peripherally in your school district and your community. Definitely a civic association or a community group. That's a broader community group that, you know, tackles issues like I talked about earlier, like we had burglaries and, you know, things like that. That's how I got involved. And if you see a candidate that you like and you believe in that candidate's platform, you can go on the internet and find where their district office is or their campaign headquarters, and you can reach out to them and help on a campaign.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And nice to meet you.
You as well.
Everybody's so polite. Love it. Oh, the one thing I did forget to say, and this is always a question that's asked, and it hasn't been asked yet. A student always asks, raise their hand and says, where did you go to college? And you know what I answer? I didn't. Didn't go to college. I look like I do because of glasses, the way I dress, like a Party J. Crew catalog, you know? I look like I did, but I got married to my first husband when I was 20 and I had my kids young, and now I'm going to be 60 and they're grown and married with their own homes and starting their own families, you know, and it's pretty sweet on the back end at almost 60 when you have your kids in your 20s.
What can you do about affordability for housing on Long Island?
Boy, that's a really hard one, right? So in a room full of educators.
A lot of information thrown at once.
Yeah.
Kind of like not really a sponge, like Scotch-Brite. I just think through, but I still kind of catch it. So
in a room full of educators, I'm gonna just like drop the bomb on the room. The Long Island is expensive because of school taxes. We get a good value for our taxes. We don't get very much back in return. I think we only get $4 back from the state. We are the wallet. I would take out my wallet. We are the wallet for the state, Long Island, because it's a high wealth area. Even in low wealth districts, it's a higher wealth than, yes, We are the wallet for the state. I think for what, every $100 we get back 4? I think for every $100 we give the state in tax dollars, we only get back 4. The governor's already sent a message. She was threatening to cut all sorts of state aid. So my hamlet that I represent, Mount Sinai School District, which is a very high wealth hamlet, they were all nervous because they don't have a large commercial base on 25A. That would be their only base is 25A. For those of you, the students that don't know, probably the grownups knew, at one point, Mount Sinai and Port Jefferson were the same school district. Actually, everybody went to Port Jefferson for high school. Rocky Point didn't have a high school, Miller Place didn't have a high school, Mount Sinai didn't have a high school, Shoreham Wading River didn't have a high school. Everybody went to Port Jefferson, Vandermolen for high school. And then as the population grew and the farmland sold off and houses were built, because the development spread east, everybody wanted their own school district. So now we have all these different school districts with not so many students anymore and a lot of overhead. So what the governor said was that she was going to pull the rug out from everybody and drastically cut aid to school districts. She hates Long Island for some reason. I mean, she really, and then that is a partisan thing to say, but I've seen her policies. I've read her thing. I've read what she said about Long Island. She just does not like us. So what she did this year now in this budget, she's restored all the aid, but she's already said how aid is going to be calculated next year will be different. So I have friends on the Mount Sinai School Board, and I told them, pay attention, sharpen your pencil. She's coming for a high wealth school district like Mount Sinai. Probably Shoreham Wading River too, coming for you guys too. Another thing that she did was pilots are no longer a gravy in your budget for a school district. She reduces your state aid by the pilot amount. So the $1 million that the Shoreham Wading River School District is getting for the solar farm, their state aid will be reduced instead of it being extra and above. So largely, we also have a highly trained, very expensive police force, worth every penny we pay them. As our yeah, my husband's retired Nassau County, so worth every penny they pay them. Teachers as well. But this is why it's expensive to live here. That's why it's expensive. We live in a litigious society where people sue everybody. We have floods, so your car insurance goes up, your homeowner's insurance goes up. I live 175 feet above sea level in my house in Rocky Point, but my homeowner's insurance went up $1,000 because I'm in a flood zone. There's a massive bluff between me, 1,000 feet, 1,000 feet to the beach, and then a bluff. There's no, if my house gets wiped out, then all of Long Island is getting wiped out and whatever happens. You know, so it's very expensive to live here, but you know what? We have the best beaches, we have the best pizza, we have the best bagels. You know, we have really beautiful places to visit. I was at the Montauk Lighthouse on Sunday, climbed to the top. You can't do, you know, it's just really, it's a trade-off. It's a trade-off.
Any other questions? Nothing, Paul? Oh, James.
So you had mentioned that, you know, at this time, we probably need some houses, but Long Island is notorious, as well as many other areas, not in my backyard.
NIMBYs, it started on Long Island, I think.
So as a town councilwoman, how do you handle the NIMBYs?
So, that's another really good question. So very often so let's talk about a multifamily project that, a community is not supportive of. You take the pulse of the community, not just those that show up to the meeting. You speak to different people. Maybe you get the developer to come down in number. They always aim high. Everybody wants 12 to 15 to an acre. And maybe you can get them down to 8 or 6. You can get a community benefit. You can get open space dedicated. Maybe some type of recreational facility. We call that a community benefit, something like that. A direct community benefit, now like with this new proposal by the governor, now we're rethinking pilot payments because they will harm local school districts as opposed to helping local school districts. Maybe we make it age restricted, make mostly age restricted, 55 and older. Studios and 1-bedrooms, and I always laugh because my parents had 8 kids in a 3-bedroom ranch with 1 bathroom, finished basement, bunk beds and a trundle bed. We try to do things like that. Age restricted studios and 1-bedrooms, no lofts. Then we garner data from the multifamily projects that already exist. How many school children, like the big Yaphank development. I think there's like less than 100 kids in Longwood School District from that massive development. You'd be surprised. So those are some of the techniques we use. Very often we encourage developers to meet with the local community. Lots of times if it's a multifamily project, they want a dog park within the project. They want pickleball. Pickleball's taking over the world. They want pickleball courts. They want access to a walking path. They want like their own amenities. They want it, kind of secluded and private, everybody's watching the news and seemingly there's an axe murderer behind every tree. So those are some of the techniques that we use. If it's a flat out no, if there is a massive hue and cry of absolutely not, then it never moves. Believe it or not, the solar farm in Shoreham garnered a tremendous amount of opposition because of the chemicals and the noise. And I said a solar farm and a cemetery would be the 2 best things to live next to because they're quiet. Right? So, but in our land use plan, that was an allowable use. And when it was interesting, a group of residents kind of infiltrated the Shoreham Civic Association, took it over in hopes of stopping the solar farm. And when they sued the town, we won. And then now there's like 3 members of the Civic Association now. They joined for a sole purpose. But like I said, that generates a lot of money for the school district. No kids, no cars, no chemicals. Sod farms and golf courses are some of the most polluting. It's green for a reason and it's not organic. And we have a sole source aquifer. Our water comes from the underground. So whatever you're flushing down your toilet, down your sink, or throwing on your lawn, it's going into the water. So.
2 questions. Bella Stevens.
Hi, Bella.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask if you guys are allowed to get involved within like the mental health facilities environment, or else like they're privately owned. I'm not too sure.
So are you specifically talking, I have a little bit of knowledge about this. Were you specifically talking about the living conditions of people with mental illness? Or helping people with mental illness?
I'm referring to the staff that are being recruited within the mental health facilities because I know they're not very well trained to take care of the patients.
I have knowledge of this because my late sister was mentally ill and she was bipolar. And I had her in a group home in Central Islip where she was beat up by her roommate. And they made me wait 6 weeks to transfer her back to the facility at Pilgrim State. And then she died. And when I went to go that night, when they called to tell me that she died, and I walked into her room and I said, how long has it been since anybody's been up here to check on my sister in her room? Because there's a pot of meatballs on the floor with flies and maggots. So
I'm so sorry.
So I made a formal complaint to the state. There are agencies within the state that I have not heard great things about. I won't name them. But if you have a specific instance or issue, you should reach out to me. I can give you my office number and I can put you in touch with your state representative.
Okay.
It's,
Yeah, I would like to share a personal incident that I had happened to me within a facility. So there was a staff member that have not handled the situation well and actually put their hands on me and shake me and yell in my face. And there's been many incidents that I've witnessed too with them not treating people who are on the spectrum very well. And I just see this, and I know there's not really much that can be done because not a lot of people would want to voluntarily work in a place like that, considering how hard it is to work in a place like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it is yeah, it's just something that um I would like to spread light on because I know it is a problem and I would just like the work environment to be better.
Hmm.
Well, I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
And we're gonna
It's
help you
okay.
do that too.
So, no, it's not okay, honey. It's really not. Everybody deserves dignity and respect,
Here.
you know, but some of our most fragile population, the people that work there aren't paid well. You know, I hear similar complaints regarding people in rehab facilities, elderly people in nursing homes, mental health housing. A friend of mine's waiting for a group home placement for her profoundly autistic son. She's been waiting for 2 years.
Wow.
Are you gonna share your office number?
You want to take my office number down?
Sure.
It's 631-451-6964. And when you call.
Wait, sorry. 631-451, what else?
6964.
We'll put it in the chat as well.
And when you call, you let Lori or Nicole know that you spoke to me tonight.
Yep.
And we'll put you in touch with the state representative for where you live, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And this is Mia.
Hi, Mia.
Really like weird question, but like what's like one cause you are most passionate about?
Most passionate about, I have two. I am very involved in the Special Olympics, the polar plunge. I've done it every year. I've raised about $17,000 for the polar plunge for Special Olympics. And I'm very passionate about living organ donation. I donated a kidney to my friend 7 years ago. It'll be 7 years on the 26th. I speak a lot to groups about living organ donation.
Thank you.
And probably show my scar too often.
Anything else? Okay. Well, Councilwoman Bonner, we really do appreciate you coming here. This was a great conversation.
It was a little all over the place, but that's Jane.
And now we know, call Jane and we have the
Call
number.
Jane, you have the number.
Bill, do you want to close us out?
Sure. In closing, our next meeting date is Thursday, May 16th at 7:00. And to the determinant of our speaker. With that, everyone, have a great night.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to meet everybody. Thank you.
And everyone has Jane's number, right?
Everybody has my number, right? Just call Jane.
9:00 tomorrow morning.